Hello, hello,
All
hello.
right. All right. How's everybody doing? Welcome to our Financial Wellness Monthly Conversation. I want to thank you for joining us. And those that are watching on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, if you could do me a favor and go ahead and share the post. We have really good information that we share each month. And that would be a nice gesture of you to share that post so that those that run across your post on your feeds can participate and get the information and possibly do something to improve their financial health in their personal lives. And so go ahead and share the post. If you would like to come on to the Zoom platform, pin to the top of the comments, you'll see a link and just click that link and you can join us on the Zoom platform. And you can also type in the chat on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, and we'll try to keep an eye on that also. But I want to present the coordinator of our financial wellness ministry, Kiera Hall.
Hello, 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 everyone. Um,
Hello.
yes, I'm excited to talk tonight, and just share some things with you and have a dialogue. And tonight, we're going to talk about, building a strong financial house and what that looks like. So just cover some of the basics. And then we're also going to talk about the average investor versus the stock market. Now, because we are live streaming, there are a little bit of limits to how deep I can get into it and what exactly I can share. And so if anybody has specific questions, I may or may not answer it, but I will definitely have a one-on-one conversation to answer the question if it doesn't make sense to answer it on live. Because I am a licensed investment professional, there are just certain rules about marketing and going live, and when you discuss different investment content things, and there's certain materials that need to be given with specifics. So hopefully the conversation can still be good, even though I might not be able to share everything that I want to share, just because I want to make sure I'm following the rules and being compliant with my licenses. But what I want to talk about is building a strong financial house. And then we're going to talk about the average investor versus the stock market. And so I'm curious, does anyone on here know, well, what is your guess? Or maybe you might know because some of y'all might have seen my Facebook post. But do you think the average investor keeps up with the stock market? Their return is below the stock market, or do you think they beat the stock?
Well, I would imagine in order for the stock market to really be a moneymaker for the businesses that encourage them to go public, um, that the average, I mean, it's not going to be like Las Vegas, the losses like Las Vegas. Uh, but I would imagine that the average investor is probably a little less than keeping up.
Yeah, yeah, yes. And actually, as something I just thought about is I'm using these words that someone might be watching and it's like, what is the stock market? And so let me take a moment and define that, bring some context for who's maybe watching. Maybe you might have been like me who didn't know much about the stock market until I, got in the industry and started getting my licenses. But before that, I didn't really know much. Um, and so the stock market, and I'll bring up from Investopedia that helps explain like, what is the stock market? And then I'll break it down kind of like to my definition, in like I guess what you call layman terms or just like not complicated ways of saying it. Um, so what is the stock market? When we look on investopedia.com, it says the stock market is a set of exchanges and other venues where shares of publicly held companies are bought and sold. The term stock market um basically gauges like overall how it's doing. Some examples of the stock market that someone might use is the S&P 500, or the NASDAQ 2000. And basically what those are is the S&P 500 is 500 of the top companies and how it performed. And so I'm going to show this slide real quick. I'm going to flip over and show you investor return. So when we look, it is just like my dad said, whether we're looking over a 1-year period or a 3-year period, a 5, a 10, a 20, and a 30-year period, you'll notice that the investor return is always less than the stock market, the average investor return. And let's look at what these numbers mean. So let me pull that out, and I'm going to pull a financial calculator up to help y'all see, like, what does this really mean? So the average investor, and I put this out, and I was like, oh, it broke my heart. So the average investor earned we'll just round it up to 4%. It was a little bit below 4%, but we're going to round it up 4%. And the stock market has averaged a little bit over 10%, but we're just going to say 10%, okay? So now when we look at that as an example and what that means for a family financially, I'm going to go to my compound interest calculator, and we're going to do 10 versus 4%. And I want you all to see how big of a deal it is. So what if you had somebody who is investing $200 a month, so that's $2,400 a year for 30 years, and they were able to get the return of 4% on their money. Their money would grow to $139,000. Now, if we pull out our calculator, let's see what that was looking like. So $2,400 a year times 30 years, they put in $72,000, but it grew to $139,000, right? So that's almost double. It almost doubled. Now let's see what the difference is. If they just invested in the stock market and just let it sit, and they didn't, pull it out and put in and pull out and kind of, try to gauge the market, but just like took the long-term approach, just buy and hold. If they had just set it there, that same investor, instead of having 172,000, they would have 455,000, having invested the exact same amount of money, right? And so how is this? And there's a really cool article which I'll go to, but basically, and I'll zoom in on it so you can see it, because I want to put a picture with the words. But the reason why this happened is because the rule of 72, it helps us to understand how compounding interest works. So it's actually complicated, but the rule of 72 made it not complicated. And it's a roundabout answer with the rule of 72 estimate. So for example, if you had a 4% rate of return like the average investor, it would take 18 years, which really the exact answer is 17.67. So 18 years based on the rule of 72 for your money to double. 18 years from 10,000 to 20,000, another 18 years from 20,000 to 40,000. It would take 18 years for those doubling periods. But if you had a 10% rate of return, now it's every 7.2 years. And so your money's doubling faster because you got that higher rate of return. Now there's a presentation, and I can't share the slide, but I'm just going to tell you about it. So basically what it shows is how investors go through this emotional cycle. And a lot of people, and I see it all the time, especially with my clients. And so I'm so grateful. I always tell them, like, this is why it pays to have a financial advisor, because the financial advisor is going to help you invest with your head and not the headlines. And so a lot of people invest with the headlines. And so something comes out, some report or some celebrity says something or some person on the news makes this guarantee as if they can predict the stock market. Nobody can predict the stock market, but there's some smart person who says something, and then people go and make moves and make decisions. And then what ends up happening is people kind of go through this cycle. They get invested, they get excited, then oh my gosh, they notice the market is going down, and people start selling their shares. And then the people who understand investing say, oh my gosh, everything's on sale, let me buy. The stock market's down, this is the perfect time to buy, let me buy more shares. And then the people who are afraid say, oh my gosh, let me get rid of my stocks. And so that is where wealth is made, when the market is down. And what's happening is people go through this cycle of fear, and they kind of sell. And there's this one brochure that I have, and if anybody wants it, just let me know. I could email it to you. But it shows how if you just missed, even just out of a 20 plus year time frame, if you only miss 10 of the best days in the market, and the thing is, we don't know when those 10 of the best days are. And so that's why it's so important just to stay in the market throughout the long haul. If you miss just 10 days, it will cut so much of your return. And so that's why the average investor has an average rate of 4%, because they're trying to time the market, and we really can't time the market. And so they might have some successes, but then, they might have sold like before it went down, but then it went down and they weren't in it. And that's the best time to be in it, because you get everything on sale, you put more, and then you don't know when it's going to come back up. But if you're in it while it's down, then you're in it when it comes back up, and then you're in a position where you're able to ride out and get the returns of the stock market. So I hope I'm making sense. And so that's why I think it's so important to, and I think my clients are so blessed, because whenever crazy stuff was happening with the market, they called them like, oh my gosh, my account's down. And then I get to tell them like, hey, remember we talked about dollar cost averaging, the rule of 72? And now this is for clients who are looking to grow their money. And then Byron, I'm going to call on you, but I'm going to finish this statement. It might actually answer what you're going to ask. We'll see. And there's different clients with different goals. So for example, if somebody was going into retirement, then they need to be invested differently from somebody like me, who's 30 years away, hey Bella, who's 30 years away, or who has more time before they're retiring. So there's your growth phase. This is the phase where I'm growing my income. Now you've grown your income, right? You're growing it. And then there's this phase where you're in an income phase. You're like, well, I'm not necessarily trying to grow it as much. I still want it to grow, but I more so want to protect what I've grown, and I just want to use my income. And then that's where you would be invested specifically based on your goals. But overall, the point that I wanted to bring tonight is, buy and hold, and how a long-term investment strategy beats the average investor who's trying to pick and choose when the best day is, get in, get out, buy, sell. That the average investor does not beat the stock market. They don't. And when you think about people like Warren Buffett, and then my mind's going blank on the other name, but when you think about people who have massive wealth from investing in the stock market, it's not because they were master investors. It's because they had a lot of time in the market. Warren Buffett, I believe he started investing at like 11 years old. And so really the big factor in building wealth is the time. So Byron, I don't know if I touched on what you're going to say, but I would love to hear what you want the comment or question or whatever it is you're going to share.
Well, I had 3 questions. You got that one. You did get me. You know your viewing audience very well. But saying I ain't got to worry about that one. The other one is when you let me go back and do it like this. First of all, how do you get in the stock market? And the second question is, do your credit have anything to do with you getting in the stock market? It's real too. I don't know if I got them upside down, but I would like to know how you even get in it, and do you have to have a certain credit score to become stock market holder? That's all I got.
That is a great question. That is a great question. So I'm going to answer the credit question first, because I think somebody else is thinking the same thing and they're wondering what it takes. And so it does not matter what your credit score is at all. Doesn't matter. You could have no credit score, and that has nothing to do with your opportunity to be able to get in the market. And so let's talk about what getting in the market looks like, because there's so many different ways that you can get in the market. So you could get it in the market by investing in individual stocks. You could use some type of trade platform, and you could buy individual stocks, maybe, Amazon or Google, Apple, or whatever. And I'm not making a recommendation as to what stock you should buy. I'm just giving an example. So that's one way to get into the market. You just buy a share of stock. Now, one of my phrases that I teach my clients is, and you know what? I'm only going to say the first part of the phrase because I feel like all of you could finish it. Don't put all your eggs
in one basket.
Yes. And what is that? When you put all your money in one stock, you put all your eggs in one basket. And so I don't recommend that. Now, what is another way you could get into the market? The other way is you can get into index funds or mutual funds. And both of those are basically like a whole bunch of baskets. There could be anywhere from 75 to 200 baskets in that one fund. So it allows you to invest however much money you put in. Let's say, think of it like the mall. And let's say the mall had 100 stores. And if you had $100, your $100 is spread across those 100 stores. So you have $1 in each store. And oh my gosh, Sears went out of business. So I lost my dollar that was in Sears. But Macy's grew and they expanded to 2 parts of the mall. And so I may have lost my money in Sears, but then my money grew in Macy's. And I'm just, these are random examples. I'm not saying Macy's is doing well or, and I don't think Sears is doing too well, but because they're going from everywhere that I've seen. But you could invest in a mutual fund. So what I do is I'm an investment licensed professional, and I actually open up mutual fund accounts for people. And what is the difference between, an index fund and a mutual fund? So the difference is the index fund, it's a group of companies, and it just sits there, and it is what it is. And it's not managed. It just, these are companies, they're in there, this is what it is. Now, a mutual fund, the difference between an index fund and mutual fund is a mutual fund is actively managed. And so a mutual fund has a portfolio manager and a team who does research, and they are, buying and selling and actively managing it. And, if there's a company from China that is in the mutual fund, they actually had somebody on the team go and research and really look into all the reports and buy it. So it's actively managed. So I do mutual funds that are actively managed. And, through that, because the next question a lot of people think about when I talk about investing is, do I have to pay a fee? How much does it cost to be able to go that route? And so the fees occur in different ways. There's really no investing without a fee. It's just some of the fees you don't see up front, but they're within the investment, like within the fund, kind of like on the inside. So you don't necessarily see it because it's not an upfront fee, but there's fees somewhere in there. And so with a mutual fund, depending on how much money you have, because once you hit over a certain amount, it's like you get, discount. And so depending on the fund, if you have 500,000, you actually could get in it with no fees. Oh, that's so funny. I saw Bella on yours and I thought she was behind me. But so a mutual fund allows individual investors to pool their money with other investors, and it be actively managed by people who get paid millions to manage billions. And if you were to pay somebody to manage your money and watch and make sure it's going after goals and objectives, that could be very expensive to pay somebody to watch your money 24/7. So the average person couldn't do that. But a mutual fund allows for a very small fee somebody to have that opportunity, but the how everyone gets paid is there are millions of people who are investing in that one fund. So yeah, only $5 came out for you, but it came out for everybody else, and so everybody's able to help you through that process, get paid, and then it doesn't cost you a lot. And I always tell people it's not about the fees, it's about the profit. Because if I had $0 in fees on my $100 and my $100 go to $500, or I had to pay $5 in fees and my $100 grew to $600, grew to, let's just say, $700, or even let's just do $600. Well, I'd rather pay $5 and my money go to $600 than $0 and go to $500. So I think the return is the most important thing. How much money am I gonna have? Because that's what I care about. What is my return on my money? And so depending on where you go, different companies have different rules. And with my company, we actually allow a family to start investing with as little as $25 a month. And that's why I work with my company, because I believe it opens the playing field. A lot of investment companies, they might have it to where and especially like wealth firms and different things, to where they won't sit with you unless you have 15,000, or I remember the company that the office used to be right next to mine, the minimum client 150,000. So if you didn't have that, they weren't working with you. But with my company, we help people open up investment accounts with as little as $25 a month to be able to get it going. And so it's so easy to get into it. You could do it yourself, or you could use a professional like me to help open up the account for you, talk about your goals, give you guidance and advice, help make a recommendation of what your money should be invested in based on your goals. So you could do it yourself, or you could work with a professional. And research shows that clients who work with professionals get a better rate of return. And I don't think it's necessarily because the professional is putting them in a better product always, but I think it's because the professional is able to help them control the behaviors, which is what messes people up with it when it comes to investing. Investing is emotional. So a lot of times people, if they see, their account going down, they think, oh my gosh, it's horrible, let me pull my money. They already are not 100% sure what's going on. And so then they think, oh, let me take my money out. This doesn't work. And so having an investment professional, that person is able to provide education and really help that person feel confident and know, Seth, go ahead and move. Help that person feel confident and know, that's one, that they are on the right track, and be able to reassure them and help them stay focused on the path. I think about it like sports. It's, training with a coach versus without a coach. And I always trained harder and did better with a coach. And so now there are some people that are just exceptional, and they will be amazing with or without a coach, because they're just wired that way. But yeah, so does anybody have any questions? And Bella, move. Everybody looking at your feet. I don't know if she can hear me. Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, Bella. Bella.
Go ahead and move. I'm doing the meeting. All right. So if no questions, okay. All right. And then let me check on Facebook just to see if anybody have any comments or questions. And then let's see what we got going on Facebook, see if anybody had any comments or questions. But am I making sense? Am I explaining this okay?
Yeah, you're doing a good job.
Thank you. And I see.
All right.
Okay.
And then let me check
on
Facebook
let me turn that
just
volume
to
down.
see if anybody have any comments or questions.
Okay, perfect. So now I can see a Facebook question. So now the next thing I want to dig into is I'm going to share my screen and we're going to cover building a strong financial house and what does that look like. So when we think about building a house, if you were building a real house, what is the first thing that has to be laid down before you can start really like putting the house?
Foundation.
Foundation.
Yes, and I'm just gonna apologize in advance for my drawing. So the foundation, definitely don't want your foundation looking like this, but hey, this is, wait, let me see if I can do a better square. So the foundation, that's right. And then after we have the foundation, then we can start putting up the walls, right? No one would ever say, well, you know, before, you know, I want to, before we work on the roof, I want to put the kitchen in and start picking the counter. Like nobody would do that. Because then, you know, things will get messed up. And so there's an order in which you build a house, and it's the same way with our finances, that there is an order in which we build our house so that our house is strong. So the foundation to or what would be your guess would be the foundation for a financial house? What is that thing that kind of protects it and helps make sure it's solid and doesn't fall apart in a, you know, a bad event? What would be the foundation to making sure your house is being built on a good foundation where if something happened, it doesn't fall apart?
I think just a founding principle of money that I invest in the stock market is the principle is that I don't invest more than what I'm willing to lose. And so and so I because I don't want to be devastated if something happens within the market. And so that founding principle is I don't invest. But then as I look at stocks, I determine my risk level and I look at the history of the stocks. And so to kind of make sure that, yeah, this base might not be a huge growth level, but I know it's a pretty dependable base. And then I might do different numbers in a more risky area. But I'm not sure if that's what you're asking for or not.
No. So that was, so we oh,
Oh,
hello. Oh, okay, I thought I heard something. But so that was more so when it comes to like investing in the stock market, and I kind of, you know, started off with that, and now we're going into building a, you know, a strong financial house. But we can actually, before we go into that topic, when it comes to investing in the stock market, I believe there's and I'll actually clear this.
and you don't have to go into it. I just misunderstood the question.
Okay. And so when it comes, well, I won't draw it out, but when it comes to investing in the when it comes to saving your money, there's like a range of like not risky at all to risky. And on the very end, most risky, that's where you have your cryptocurrency. Then you have individual stocks, and in the middle you have like mutual funds and index funds, things like that. Then on the other end, like, well, before you get to the other end of on the safer side, that's where you have bonds, and then you have savings account, CD account, like at the bank. And so with the principle of, you know, basically investing something that you're not willing to use, I use that principle with stocks and crypto.
Not willing to use, not willing to lose.
Oh, that's why I said lose.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I use that with stocks and cryptocurrency, and anything kind of on that riskier end. That is what I would use that principle with. But when you think about retirement planning, you know, I'm not willing to lose any of it, right? Because if I do, well, I guess how do I put it? I'm not willing to come out negative, because if I do come out negative, then I'm not gonna be able to retire. And so when it comes to retirement planning, there has to be like a strategy in place to where we can feel comfortable to invest what we need to invest so that we can hit our goals, whether it be 500 a month, 1,000 a month. And that actually might be, you know, money that I'm not really willing to lose, because this is money that I'm gearing towards my retirement, and I need it to be there. I need it to grow so that I can hit my retirement goals. And so when it comes to investing, I think it's so important that we, first off, especially when it comes to retirement planning, that we have what's called our financial independence number, a FIN number. And that's the amount of money that we need so that one day we can live off that money for the rest of our life and never run out of money. And then we got to know, okay, how much do I need to put in to hit that goal? And then when it comes to losing the money, we have to make sure that it's invested properly so that we don't have that fear and we know how the market works. And one of the things about the stock market is it's like a yo-yo, so it goes up and down in the hands of a woman that's going up the stairs. So although it goes up and down, it's still going up over time. And then when we look, I have to be careful with like what brochures I share and stuff and how I share them, because some of them have specific funds. But if anybody wants like specific, like any references to the things I'm saying, just let me know. I will email it to you and like send you a prospectus and, you know, everything like that. But when we look at the last 85 years of the market, 20 of them were down and 65 were up, and it averaged over 10%. And so what I like to tell people is we can't predict the future. We can't, because who knows, the whole world could end. But one of the questions I'd like to ask people is, what is the likelihood of Apple, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, American Express, Pfizer, Walmart, like what is the likelihood of 75 of the largest growing companies all going down at once? It's never happened in history. You know, there might be one company that goes down, or, you know, here and there, but the likelihood of hundreds of companies, you know, 50 plus companies all going down at once is highly unlikely, right? And so when it comes to investing, that's why I like a good mutual fund strategy, understanding that, hey, it fluctuates, it goes up and down. But history has shown that it has had a positive return, even if we go back to the 1920s, even the last 100 years. And so in history, generally, you know, repeats itself in some way or another. And it's a good guide just to help us just kind of have some understanding of what might happen in the future. So when it comes to buying something very risky, like an individual stock or Bitcoin or different things like that, I definitely say, hey, invest something that you're okay with losing. But then the mindset when it comes to retirement planning has to switch a bit, because if you need to invest 500 a month to hit your retirement goal, then it's like, well, hey, we need to make sure that you're invested in a good fund and maybe in your 401k. Some of you have 403bs, you have your Roth IRA, different things like that. And that's money that, you know, we don't want to be just like, oh man, it might be gone. It can't be gone, because that's our goals for our retirement. And so we want to plan it well, and invest in something that we can have some confidence in based on like history and track record. So I did want to just share that, because somebody might be listening, and I don't want anybody to be afraid. I want them to have an understanding and know that, hey, for the past 85 years, yeah, the news shines a light on the 20 down years, but it's not shining a light on the 65 up years and the overall positive return when you look at any 20-year period in history when you're talking about planning for retirement. And and that's going to be a part of this financial house. And let me quit talking so much because I don't want to ruin it. So when it comes to building your overall financial house, so thinking about all the different financial products and your different financial goals, what would be the foundation? What type of financial products do you think would be at the foundation of a financial house, or a strategy should be the foundation?
Maybe the I don't know. I could be guessing wrong, but maybe I don't want to go as low as say it's bonds. I would say maybe
Oh,
mutual
Daddy, let me
funds.
switch your thinking. So take it off of investing.
Okay.
Think about the overall financial house. So you
Um,
have, I'm going to give out a list. You have, I'm going to give the list of everything. We have insurance. We have, um, oh, debt elimination. We have retirement. Oh gosh, my handwriting. We have wills. We have college savings for kids. So when you're kind of looking at that list, just thinking of all the different financial products and strategies and different plans that we have, which one fits at the bottom? Like which is the one that we got to get in place really? And it's so important to get it in place before we start digging into all the other things. What would you say?
I wouldn't say any of them. I would say a stream of income because I think streams of income makes ways for the other things to happen.
So you are on it in a way because insurance is the foundation of the financial plan. Because if you had oh Lord, I'm spelling insurance wrong. If you had a husband and a wife who each made 40,000 a year, right? And their 40,000 a year is going into that financial house. If the husband passed away, that 40,000 a year is gone. Uh-oh. That 40,000 a year is gone. So now the house was once living on 80K because 8 out of 10 families live paycheck to paycheck. So majority of people are living on what they make. They're not really living below their means. So if 40K is gone, the foundation of my plan is insurance, because when it comes to life insurance, if I have 400,000 of life insurance and I get that on my spouse, God forbid if my spouse passes away, or if I get it on me and I pass away, we put that 400,000 in a mutual fund, averages 10%, and now it's going to pay 40,000 a year to our family. That income was just replaced. So without the income, the whole financial house falls down. So the insurance protects the income. The insurance is there to make sure that if I go, my income stops. And so I need to put, if my family depends on my income at all, if they would be significantly impacted by my absence, then I need life insurance so that the income is protected, so that as I go about building my financial house, the base is protecting that income, because we can't predict where we'll go. And so we need the insurance income. So so that is the foundation that's really the foundation of the financial plan, because great, I'm getting out of debt, but God forbid if I pass away, I'm actually going to leave some more debt for my family if I don't protect that income. My income's gone and the debt's still there. Great, I'm saving for retirement. Well, if I don't have 400,000 yet, then I need life insurance until I have 400,000, because then once I have 400,000, God forbid if something happened to me, my family will have that 400,000. They'll be okay. They don't need life insurance. They'll have that 400,000 of money. So insurance is the base, is the foundation for a financial plan. And so income's not necessarily foundation, because this is like the plan for the income. And so, but it's the income protection. So you were on it because the income is the most important thing. So if that goes away, everything else falls apart. You can't really do nothing without the income. And so that is the purpose of life insurance. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't know that this is what life insurance is for. They might get, just a small whole life policy. A lot of people, they think about life insurance, they just think about burial. And burial is not that big deal. I mean, it's important to make sure you don't have to raise money and stuff, but that part is going to be done. But after the breadwinner is no longer there, now that family, they're faced with a burden long after the funeral of trying to figure out, how do we still continue to pay these bills even though our income's been cut? And then I want to speak to another side of it. So for some of you listening, you might be a husband who has a wife that doesn't work. Or you might be a stay-at-home mom and you're listening. And so you might think, well, do I need insurance because I don't have income? And so for all the stay-at-home moms and for all the husbands with stay-at-home moms, and let me not discriminate, because there's stay-at-home dads too. And there are wives who are the breadwinners. So for all the stay-at-home parents, and let me not say moms, you may need insurance too. The question becomes, if you were to pass away, would it affect your family? As a stay-at-home mom, or dad, you may not earn an income, right? But you might pick the kids up from school, drop them off from school, do all the doctor's appointments, clean and manage the house. You might do a lot of things to where if you were gone, now the family has to try to figure out child care, things, right? Might have to hire some help. It will create a different scenario that might be stressful because the home just lost someone who's providing support to the home. And then I'm talking about couples, but oh my gosh, let's definitely talk about single parents. The single parent,
He froze up, Rip.
We'll try to give her a second to come back to come back in. Anybody have any thoughts that they'd like to share as Kiara is getting her connection back right?
Yes. I was gonna bring up when she was talking about like life insurance could help out, like if somebody passes, to kind of like stabilize the missing income. But to me, what I find out too, besides life insurance, is a house itself, that we put ourselves in a position where our mortgage, if you had to get it refinanced or whatever, where it'll be suitable mortgage payments, where if something like that did happen, regardless of the other person's income, based on what they're making, that they can continue at least to have somewhere to stay and to be able to pay their bills in that aspect. Because a lot of times to get those big policies like that, you have to be healthy or you have to do it early in life. Because once you start getting health issues, you can't get that kind of stuff. And we know burial is one thing, but the basic average person, just say 5 out of 10, because I don't know the stats like that, but I would think that the average person will have enough to bury themselves and maybe be able to leave $50,000 back. And that won't go very far when you're talking about prolonging to pay income. So I think having a house itself is the best investment that you can make for the long run, in case of income go to missing, where you can put yourself in a position to continue to have somewhere to live. That just just conversation piece.
Any other thoughts? Any other thoughts? All right. And so again, I'm not an expert in the conversation that we're having now. As Kiera is trying to get back in, I think we were in this conversation just about laying a foundation, and I kind of saw it a little bit different, but I understand what she was saying. My piece is that you got to have the stream of income coming in, whatever that stream is. It's going to lay a foundation, and then you make sure that I always talk about pyramids have a large base, and then they go up. But if that pyramid was turned upside down with that small base, that thing could topple at any time. And so I'm more in the frame of really being safe, wanting to bring in revenue, wanting to widen your base, widen that we widen our base so that we can grow in it even more. But that base, that foundation is always so important. And I think that what she was saying as it relates to insurance is that insurance is it gives you protection where that stream of revenue is concerned. And so if there's a certain amount that family depended on, you know, that you make sure that if some kind of way that revenue disappeared, that you still have that option in place to where the whole house doesn't collapse. And so it really kind of does what you're
Hey,
what you plan on it
oh,
doing. Go ahead, Kira.
I apologize about that. My power went out. I don't know what just happened.
All right.
The lights went off, and I thought, oh dang, the internet's about to go off, and then it came back on. But I just joined from my phone. Um, so is it okay? Were y'all in the middle of something, or can I go back to kind of where I was going?
No, you go ahead.
Okay. So the foundation, and I switched it to my phone now, so I'm gonna just talk if that's okay, until I can get my computer back up. But the foundation is the insurance, the income protection. And that income protection, that is the difference between a family. That is the difference between a family leaving wealth and a family leaving debt. A family, through life insurance is really able to put themselves in position to make sure that the ones they're leaving behind, because life insurance is not for me. The real client is the beneficiary, the ones I love, because that's the ones who's going to receive the money, God forbid, if I were to pass away. And so, being in this industry, I delivered, my first death claim about a week and a half ago. And being in this industry, I just think about it a lot more than most people do. Because even if I'm not delivering a death claim, every time I see somebody on my Facebook that passed away, my first thought is, oh, I hope they have some life insurance, or I hope they had a lot of money saved up. It breaks my heart because I see the struggles that people face due to lack of money. And when we talk about economic empowerment in our community, I went to a convention this weekend that was full of Black excellence. It was like Wakanda. It was like about 10,000 Black people, all at the Orlando Marriott World Center. And they were talking about empowering our communities, narrowing the wealth gap, making a difference. Because y'all, when y'all think about companies, and I ain't gonna say no names because I don't want to be put for like slander or anything, so I won't say any names. But when you think about wealth management companies, they do not knock on the doors in our community. They don't. Not in the Black community, not on East Gainesville, not in any hoods. They do not knock on the doors. But we have money in our community. We do. In our community, people have money to be able to buy, nice shoes, buy nice hair, buy nice clothes, go out to eat, have some fun with friends. And I'm not saying everybody's like that, but there is money in our community. And when you look at the statistics, Black people spend a whole bunch of money. And so we have some power with our money. And I heard somebody say this and I thought, wow, I think that's so true. So, there's certain parts, I don't know if it's like this where we live in Gainesville, but I know definitely when you think about like Chicago, east side of Chicago and different bigger places that have a hood where there's a lot of gun crime and deaths in the Black community. And when you think about police officers killing Black people, let me tell you, if a whole bunch of people in the hood started getting life insurance policies, big ones, 500,000 million. Let me tell you something. Um, the life insurance industry, one of the biggest industries in the world, is going to say, hey, y'all can't keep killing these Black people because we paying out too much. And money makes a difference when it comes to the situation. So I believe that if we can empower our people to build wealth through getting life insurance policies and starting to invest as early as possible, especially with the life insurance. If you have an insurance company and they're paying $500,000 claim, $1 million claim, all of a sudden that Black life that did not matter to people, it's gonna start mattering to the insurance companies when they're paying too much for Black lives being killed. And someone shared about that this weekend, and they're actually from the east side of Chicago. So like I don't even know what that type of hood is like because I'm from Gainesville. Like our hood is not even a hood compared. But they're from a place where gun violence is like ravaging the community, and they're just on a mission where they talking to their aunties and the cousins and brothers and sisters and the young fellas in the community, and it's like, hey man, let's make sure your family's protected because you know how it is out here, people are dying, let's make sure you have some coverage. And I really, that made sense to me. I'm like, I really believe if we get covered, there is going to be value on the Black life. And I know I'm straying away from a little bit of the financial house, but I wanted to bring these points because I heard them and I thought they were so good. And then the other point that I heard that I was like, whoa, I had never heard this before. And I'm curious if you've ever heard it. But back in the day, before Black people were labeled as people, when we used to be labeled as property, as slaves, the slave master was allowed to purchase life insurance on the slaves. And they were allowed to purchase up to $10,000 of life insurance on the slaves.
Not only
Now,
that, not only that, is that when slavery ended, the U.S. government had to they put in claims based on the number of slaves that they had. When the slaves were freed, the U.S. government made a claim against the United States for that property that they lost when slavery ended.
I, and here was the point that I heard because I was like, what? I didn't know that. And so it felt so good to be surrounded and like just be learning this information about, just history. And I was like, oh my gosh. But check this out. The slave master bought these $10,000 policies, and let me tell you something though. Um, most of the white people I've met with and know, they don't buy little $10,000 policies on their life. They buy $250,000 policies, $500,000 policies, $1 million policies. But a whole bunch of Black people still around here buying $10,000 policies, $20,000, $30,000 policies. And I wonder, like, why are we still getting these little policies? Our life is more valuable than that. It's worth so much more. And we really have to take it serious and get more coverage on our lives, because if we don't, we will continue to repeat the cycle of, lack, and the cycle of fish fries and t-shirts and GoFundMe's, which it shouldn't even be a thing. Just like with church, if people just pay their tithes, the church can function the way it need to function. They got to do all these fundraisers. And the same thing with life insurance for, $1 a day, $2 a day, especially if you get it when you're young, $3 a day, maybe $5 a day, going to McDonald's, you replace that, get your policy, you can put yourself in position to where you are leaving wealth for your family. And some people I hear them say, "Wow, no, they're not about to get rich on me. I ain't leaving all that money." That is a poverty mindset. Poverty mindset. We should be thinking about leaving money behind, educating the next generation, setting up trust, and just really seeing ourselves as worthy. And seeing our kids as worthy. Yeah, they should work hard, but they should also still be left $1 million.
But
Do the best you can.
I think what we have to acknowledge though, we have to acknowledge the trauma. And so when we approach our community, you have to approach it from the fact that trauma has happened, and there has to be a level of education to help deal with the trauma. And so many of the people my age, and older than me, we saw this white man, coming to the house, or coming to our parents' house, or coming to our grandparents' house, coming to collect on this insurance policy, and they come, they collect, and then when the person dies, they're you barely got enough to pay for the funeral, but they paid it on their entire life, and
Oh,
because
I'm so glad you're
they
saying this.
these were people that took advantage of our
Yes,
people. And so when people have
yes.
taken advantage, just like a lot of black people didn't want to take the shots, the vaccinations. There's a lot of trauma that's happening in our community. And it's not always so much that it's a slave mentality, but it's a preservation mentality. And so you have people that and systems that has taken advantage of us for so long. And so, we start out, looking at it side eye because we saw it
Right.
take advantage of our relatives. And so, and I know Trina has a hand up also.
Yeah. And Auntie Trina, I'm gonna come right to you. I want to address what my dad just said. Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up because they spoke about this at the conference and I forgot to say something about it. Man, you have one of the gentlemen who spoke, his grandma was paying on a policy for 70 years and it paid out $2,000 when she died. She was paying on it for 70 years. And that is a big part because the insurance industry has used and abused Black people. And so you have these people walking to your house selling the policies. They walk into the White House and they sell, 100,000. Then they go into the Black House and they sell 10,000. They go to the White House, they sell 250,000. Go to the Black House, and they also took advantage of some white people too, just as a whole, with the insurance industry being corrupt, which is why I'm in it to fight against the corruptness and the lack of education and people being sold products just for a commission, but not sold products with education on how to help take their family to the next level. But I definitely don't think it's a slave mentality. What I think it is a miseducation. I think there has been so much to try to devalue the Black life, so much where people, don't feel worthy, and if you don't feel worthy, you're not going to think somebody else is worthy. Some people think 500,000 is a lot of money, but when you talk about insurance, if I ask you, is 50,000 a year rich? Most people say no, 50,000 a year is not rich. Well, a $500,000 policy would replace 50,000 a year in income. And so sometimes people don't even understand the correlation of like why that big amount. I've had people say, "Oh, no, I don't need that much. I don't need that much." And then when I break it down and I educate, and I'm like, so you make 30,000 a year. So, but if you get 100,000, that's only going to leave behind 10,000 a year for your family. Will your kids be okay off that? Would that be enough to support them? Less than 1,000 a month. You talk about daycare, different things like that. Whoever's going to take care of your kids that you trust, would that be enough? And they say, "Oh, well, no." And I say, "Well, with 2,000 a month, yeah, 2,000 a month. Well, then we really need 240,000 coverage to do that." So it's not that you're even making somebody rich, it's that you're just supporting so that they don't have to fall into poverty. Because when someone's in poverty, it goes right into the prison pipeline. When there's poverty, it affects the health. So when the income's low, the health is low, everything is really affected by this. And you are so right. There's so many people who have their mama, their grandmama paid on a policy all these years, and either there's nothing there or there's such a small amount that it doesn't even do anything. And it goes back, it's not the people's fault, it's the insurance agent fault. Because the insurance agent I feel you have an obligation to do right, to have integrity, to educate people, help them understand the choices, get what they need. And so that's why I'm so passionate about this, and I operate with my clients with education. And to really go back and forth with understanding. And something I do differently is with my clients, I have meetings with their beneficiaries, because how many times somebody passed away and you don't know who they got insurance with? And so I build a relationship with the beneficiary. That way, God forbid something happened, then the beneficiary got my email, my phone number. You know who to reach out to. And I can come deliver that check. And I can also help you to know, okay, this was their wishes, this was their goals. They wanted to put away $50,000 for little Deontay college. They wanted to put away another $50,000 for Kiara's college. I'm just making up some children name. And they also wanted to make sure that there was $2,000 much child support. So we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. And sometimes people, they only take that care and concern when dealing with big money. But I believe that same care and concern is needed for somebody who has $50 a month. And we say, hey, we're gonna put $25 on life insurance policy, other 25 we're gonna start investing for you. But you are so right. There's been trauma, there's been mistrust. And I want to just keep preaching the message. You are worth more than a $50,000 policy. You worth more than $100,000 policy, because your family, your kids are worth more than just leaving $10,000 a year. That ain't enough to support a child. At a bare minimum, God forbid something happen to you, I think you should leave at least $2,000 a month. $24,000 a year for that child. If you got more kids, you really need more coverage, because more kids cost more. But let me get off my rant. And I hope Auntie Trina can remember what she's saying. But man, I think this is one of my favorite financial wellness talks right here. What Auntie Trina, what is it you want to share?
Yes, it's sounding really good. So I want to say I do remember the white man coming into my grandma Bip house collecting that insurance money. And it didn't go very far once she did pass. So my questions were, like, on average, I know it depends on health, it depends on age, it depends on stuff like that, but how much are those 500,000 or $1 million policies on average?
That is
the questions.
That's a great question. So for somebody who's my age, it really depends on health. So for example, I just helped a single mom, 32, get $1 million in coverage for like $65. If somebody's a smoker, a month, you have 65 a month. If somebody's a smoker, it's gonna be more expensive. If you have issues, and then depending on how much health issues you have, you might not qualify. Which is why it's so important that when, like, now is important, because today I am the youngest I'll ever be. And today I'm the healthiest I'll ever be, most likely. And so it's so important not to delay on these things, because I've seen people delay, and then next thing you know, there's a cancer diagnosis. And now, oh Jesus, we can't get coverage anymore. Not that much, not a regular policy. Or there's now, a diabetes diagnosis, or there's an accident, or there's a seizure, something happens, because tomorrow's not promised, and things just can happen with our health. And so we got to thank God every day that we're healthy and we're alive. And but yeah, it's not expensive at all. Generally, the best time to get insurance is as young as possible, because you lock it in while you're healthy. But then the other thing about insurance is you got to read the contracts. It don't matter what that agent says to you. It does not matter. A lot of these agents be lying, and it make me mad, because they be all on TikTok, all on the Facebook, just lying. And a lot of these companies that put out notices basically saying that they're going to be terminated if they see them. So I be reporting them. I be tagging entities on their posts, because it's not just about them. It's like, your lies are hurting a family. So yeah, you're going to make $1,000, but you're hurting this family. It's not worth it. And so it's not expensive at all. It normally is less than we think. And with a good plan, somebody could get some coverage in place. They can get some investment set up, and really be on track. And it doesn't have to be anything crazy. And I heard one lady share a testimony. So she didn't want to get insurance, right? And the agent asked her, say, hey, I noticed you got some nice TVs in your house. You got cable on this TV? She said, yeah, she had direct TV. She was paying $400 a month for all 7 of them TVs. You know what that agent said? So when you die, you want to leave your family a $500,000 policy, or would you rather leave them with a $400 direct TV bill? Let me tell you, when she thought about it that way, she canceled the $400 a month direct TV. She got her some $9.99 Netflix, and she got the policy she needed for her family. And so a lot of times the policies, they're not expensive, but it's just a matter of priority, because some people are living to where there's no room, but it's like we have to make room, you know, and we have to prioritize it and realize that if we don't prioritize it, we're setting our family up to continue that fight and struggle when we could break the cycle of poverty and we could begin the cycle of wealth. So we'll end there because we're beyond
Wait,
age.
I have one more question.
Uh-huh.
So, and are there stipulations, like, you know, Black people are being killed, but it's gun violence? Like, are there stipulations that cut that out of the policies and they won't pay because of certain things that you die from?
Great question. So there are a lot of companies that have stipulations. They might have a clause that says act of war, act of terror. So remember the shooting at the gay nightclub in Orlando. That was declared by, I think Barack Obama might have been the president at that time, President Obama. And he declared, and the president, they're the one who, once they say it, it is now declared an act of war. And so I think, pretty sure he declared the act of war. 9/11 was definitely declared an act of war. But once that is said, now any insurance companies that have that clause, they don't have to pay out anymore. And that's one of the things I love about my company, is because we don't have the act of war clause. We don't have the act of terror. Let's say you have somebody who maybe now they're young, and then they get insurance, and then they go into the military and they get killed in the military. And so some companies won't pay because they died in an act of war. And so I've seen policies, and I won't say a big company for the state of, well, I won't say that either, because I got to be careful because I don't want nobody coming after me. But I've seen policies for a big business in Gainesville that have an exclusion. They say if you die of a heart attack, it ain't gonna pay. And so that's why
Wow, that's
important to
crazy.
read the contracts, because a lot of people, they get a policy and then it don't pay. Well, it wasn't
Right.
supposed to pay because it wasn't a natural death. It was an accident, heart attack. There's so many different things. And so I specialize in like reading contracts, helping. I just had one person in her contract. It said the contract could be changed at any time in the contract, which means you have no control. That's the worst contract ever. And so, and a lot of people have these policies and they have no idea. And so I say, don't listen to what the people say. Don't listen to what I say. The contract is what's going to hold up in the court of law, and the contract is going to be the thing that's really going to matter in the day. And so, you know, my stepmom, Miss Shawn, she taught me, you read them contracts. I remember I bought my first lease. She made me sit there and read through that whole thing. But I'm so grateful for it that she taught me to really dissect these things, and really look at it. Because at the end of the day, it does not matter what the agent says at all. They can tell you the best thing. It don't matter. All that matters is what's in the contract. But
Thank you.
my pleasure. And I love you all. And I'm so passionate about this because every week I see contracts that make me mad. And I'm like, this should be illegal, but it's not illegal because it's the contract. And once you sign the contract, that's the rules of it. And so we, you know, I'm on a mission, you know, to help our people have whole life success, you know, and I'm so excited. Our church is about that too, because we have the mental health ministry, we have the financial health ministry, we have the marriage ministry, we have the youth ministry. We have so many different ministries to help us succeed in our whole life. And I'm here to help you succeed in your financial life. So I'm a support. I do completely free consultations. I offer education and resources. And I'm just so excited that I have the opportunity to be able to do this, because I'm passionate about it. And I hate seeing people struggle financially. So I'm so excited. I can't wait to create
millionaires. I can't wait to see families whose lives are changed because they just had a little bit of financial education. And I hope to be able to get rid of the casualties that we see in our community from the misinformation, from the lies of the insurance agents, even the lies of the people in financial industry, investment industry, just trying to sell us a product, but not educating us, helping us know what's in our best interests. So we're 10 minutes over, but I pray this bless you all today. We'll finish up the financial house on the next meeting because we talked about the foundation. If you want to know about it sooner, just let me know. I have an amazing magazine called How Many Works. I will send it to you. Just, message me. I just need your email to get it to you. And any resource support or questions, I am here. You can message me on Facebook or you can email me at kiara.hall@primerica.com. And I love you all. And come visit us on Sunday. Church is really good. And come check us out on Wednesday too. That's tomorrow. We have Real Talk. And I'll turn it over to my dad if he wants to close out with anything.
Good job, Kiara.
Thank you.
All right, perfect. Anybody else got anything they want to say before we get out of here? All right, wonderful.
Love you,
wonderful.
Kiki.
Love you, Auntie Trina.
All right. Wonderful. So thank you everybody for joining. Make sure you share this post. It's all about empowerment. All about empowerment. And we empower the people. I heard this saying said a rising tide floats all boats. And
Yes.
And so if we help each other come up, the village will come up. God bless
Yes.
you all. You all have a great one.
Good night.
All right.